Most of the time, big twists at the end of movies work because there was just enough hidden and just enough shown throughout the film. We need to be shown just barely enough that when the twist happens, we can connect the dots and believe it. But anything beyond that very small window of information should be obscured from us. And so obviously this is a conversation in the writing room and for the director and cinematographer while they're shooting in production, but this is also a conversation for post-production. There could very well be large chunks of dialogue or important shots that you feel as the editor need to be removed in order to create a certain dynamic and reveal only certain information to the audience. There's a concept in filmmaking called a shooting ratio. This is the number of total hours of footage over the end runtime. So, for example, when I worked at my advertising agency, we would typically have 3-day shoots, 12-hour days each day. The first few hours we'd have to get set up and everyone settle into the set and the location, and the last hour we'd have to wrap. So for simplicity, let's say that we had 10 hours of actual shooting. And then if you incorporate all of the wait times and the new setups, let's say that we actually recorded about 5 hours a day. So there's 5 hours of actual footage that we recorded. That might be a bit of an exaggeration. Perhaps it was a bit less, but honestly, it could have been that much. That's how much we would record some days. So by the end of the shoot, we have 15 hours of clips in our hard drive. The typical runtime for our commercials was 5 minutes. So that's 15 hours over 5 minutes. So let's convert that. 15 times 60. So that's 900 minutes over 5 minutes. 5 divided by 900. What percent is 5 out of 900? So that's 0.5%. So in our commercial, if we really had 15 hours of footage, we used 0.5%. We used 0.5% of the total footage that we shot. Now, in some commercials, this was way lower. It was more like 5 or 6 hours of footage. But I've also worked on documentaries that had over 100 hours of footage, and we're looking at a 15-minute runtime. So that's 0.025. What happens is a script is written, and it's sort of the ideal version of how you'd like to present your story. And then it's really expensive to hire all of the people necessary to do all of the different jobs required to produce a very high quality production. So you want to cover all of your bases. You want to be as safe with your footage as you possibly can to make sure that you have all of the potential assets that you need. So directors are probably going to spend a good time with their art department dialing it in as perfectly as they can. And directors are probably going to spend some time getting different variations in performance and different interpretations of ways to perform the script because they want to make sure that they have something that works well on screen. And no matter how much experience you have, every movie is a new movie, and to a certain extent, it's a little bit of an experiment. So yeah, even really, really well planned out, intentionally thought through commercials that are extremely short could have tons of footage. Now, documentaries are even more notorious for this because typically the story is discovered in the editing room. Most of the documentaries that I've worked on, and even reality shows are like this to an extent, they just have a camera and they point it in people's faces for as long as they feel that they need to, which could be hours or days on end. And then you boil all that footage down to a 1 or 2 minute scene. I worked on a home renovation TV show where a couple was setting up some wiring on a wall. It took them 4 hours to do one afternoon, and I had to cut their 4 hours of work down to less than 3 minutes. Quite often, it really does come down to you as the editor with hours upon hours of footage trying to get it down to something reasonable.